Hi, friends. Good evening. And I'm Vani from Vani Subramanian from Reframe. And welcome to this evening. I'm sorry, you'll have to forgive my nasal tone and sore throat. It's the price we Dilliwalas are paying for the sudden and happy change in the weather. But nothing will take away from the fact that it's that kind of evening again. When we folks at Reframe get together with you to celebrate the work that let's be honest, it's actually the work that our fellows do. As many of you know, the Generalities Art Fellowships offered by Reframe have, over the last couple of years, produced singular and multiple works by 21 artists. Works as varied as films to podcasts, abstract art to graphic novellas. And there's more to come soon, with the next round of the Generalities soon to be announced. Stay tuned for more about that. But let's get back to today. We gather here to celebrate a work titled Bereft, Archiving a Queer Disabled Experience, by an artist who themselves defies categorization. Natasha Chandhock, or Tash as they prefer to be called, is a self-taught mixed multimedia art practitioner whose work ranges from utilitarian handcrafted art to art positioned at the juncture of gender, disability, and design justice. They identify as gender fluid and are a person with multiple physical and psychosocial disabilities. And that informs their work in various ways. Having had a formal education in graphic as well as social design, their critique of the discipline with regards to ableism and inaccessibility is a strong ethic they aim to carry forward in works that they may create in the future. And who better to join them this evening to talk about both the beauty and challenges of creating an artistic response to this core ethic than Shivangi Agrawal. Shivangi, as many of you may know, is a queer and disabled activist based in Delhi. They are currently working as the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Associate at ThoughtWorks. They have many years of experience working as an interdependent consultant, researcher, writer, advisor, and facilitator, with an emphasis on advocacy for disability, sexuality, gender, policy, arts, education, and accessibility, with both local and global organizations. Their key areas of work include disability justice, trans rights, anti-caste work, migrant rights, transformative justice, sexuality, gender, anthropology, politics, and technology. But they're also an artist. And as an artist, their practice involves journaling, creating zines, poetry, painting on big canvases, walls, or even unique surfaces like their own prosthetic shoes and wheelchairs. They like to use various forms of art for justice, collective organizing, live documentation of political narratives, and radical thought. But before I hand the evening over to Tash and Shivangi, a brief word from Reframe about Tasha's Bereft archive. As you will see, the artworks in Tasha's archive make us relook and rethink at everyday objects around us and lay bare our complex and yet varied relationships with them. As Tash shared with us most generously about their own life and challenges, they opened our eyes to both our privileges and dependencies, and in doing so made us think deeper about ableism and accessibility in so many aspects of everyday life. To be able to do that, and yet raise the works to the level of abstraction and beauty that Tash has done, makes us proud that we had anything at all to do with this project. One brief housekeeping note, live transcriptions are on, so if any of you think you would find them useful, please enable it in your Zoom settings. That's the 3 dots over the word more. If you go there, then you can enable your live transcriptions or subtitles as it's called. And with this, I'd like to call upon Tash and Shivangi to take us through this evening in ways that possibly only the two of them can. And you'll soon discover why I'm saying that. Tash, Shivangi, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Vani. Thank you so much.
So glad both of you are able to be here. Shivangi, thanks for joining this conversation. And Tash, proud as ever and waiting to share this with the world. And this is just the beginning.
Shivangi, how are you doing?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm doing really well, and especially hi to Tash. I am ready for the session. We want everybody to be comfortable in their own space and maybe come on video if they like. I don't know if anybody is not comfortable. Please feel free to interact via chat. And yeah, it's really exciting to be here, I guess. Thanks, Vani, for that really amazing introduction. And yeah, I'm ready to get this started. Maybe I thought that maybe we could have a sort of an icebreaker sort of a thing, because we are a few people here, and we can just talk comfortably with each other, and share about our kind of daily objects from your everyday life, because I think that's something that we all can relate to with each other. And that's what this amazing artwork that Tash has brought us is talking all about. So I think we've also brought some of those objects with us, and if you have also brought, maybe feel free to share via different platforms that are there. And you can tag bereft.archives for that, or you can post it on the chat as well. And yeah, so for Tash, do you want to get started maybe with your intro a little bit? Yeah.
Yeah, so the idea was to make this intro session, this space where we're going to introduce ourselves a little more interactive and interesting by bringing 4 objects or 3 objects from our everyday life that we use and talk about their relevance. And we encourage all the participants over here who are joined in for the session to also think of maybe one object from their surroundings right now, or anything that they can think of without even looking around, and share about it with us if you feel comfortable doing so. And I've been at the back of my head, I knew that I would be getting like so and so objects, but in the morning, I found I couldn't find one of the objects that I had thought. But regardless, I'm just going to introduce myself through the objects that I've brought.
Yes.
So one of the things I got here is an extension board. And I think this is one of the most important things in my room at the moment, and generally, because I've mostly lived in rented spaces, and it's very hard to customize everything, and it's very costly and everything to customize, and all the switchboards that I have, the places that I've lived in, and the switchboards are below, I think, 2 feet, and I have issues in bending. So it's often a challenge for me to, access those, electrical points. So I've just shifted into a new space, and you can find these around in my room a lot. And also, like, a lot of times my back is spasming, or I'm not able to walk a lot. The mobility is reduced. So, of course, my, electronic stuff, I need to access those. So I just brought this to make that, that's why it's important to me. I also thought of bringing something which is not so much of utility, but it's a hand-painted floral scarf it's been painted by one of my fellow artists who hand-paint stuff. And this is like super important to me when, or other such floral things are really, really warm and affirmative for me. I'm going through a tough period, and just wrap this around myself and give myself a moment. And so yeah, that's one of the objects. And the last is one of these tubes that I have to use because of the physical disabilities that I have. I have 2 chronic illnesses and 1 genetic disorder. So whenever I'm relapsing, I need to follow a routine every time I have to use the restroom. So one of those things is using this tube for local application. And I get really nervous if I don't have this in my bag. So yeah, these are my objects. And I'd love to know what you've got, Shivangi.
Yeah, absolutely. Those were really amazing products. I mean, things that you brought, objects, I would say, that you brought, because I think all of them have like a very significant color and things like that, that I felt like were really amazing as well. Like, I was thinking a lot about the different structures, the patterns and everything that you brought, like the warm blanket, like I could feel like it was warm, while you were just describing it. So thanks for that, like really, like amazing description of your daily objects. I wish we could, all talk about all our daily objects, in some kind of a space. And I feel like you have really created that with Bereft. And so I also, when I was thinking about this, like I also bought a few products, objects, sorry, objects that are like my daily use. So one of them is my like asthma inhaler. I don't know if like any of you use this in your daily life. I feel like it's become quite common with people who have lung diseases and stuff like that. I think and for me it's like I've had asthma all my life, and that's kind of like my chronic illness. And like you said, what you Tash, what you said about your medicine, the ointment that you brought, the tube, I guess. I felt that was something relatable, because if I don't have this in my bag, I get like really panicky. Oh my god, like where is this? I can't breathe. So that's something. And I like because your art makes me really think about colors and patterns and all of those things. I was like just looking at the patterns that are there in this inhaler that are really comforting. The number, so that I know when it's over. And like, yeah, just the color of like this green and this white, it's something that I've used for a long time, so it means a lot to me. Then I also brought my medicine. Like I have recently contracted anxiety disorder. Like it's been around a year or something, and I feel like this is something, it's like become a daily object. Like it's like pink with like silver. Like I love the little colors. I think like medicine colors are something that are really fun for me to watch. That's something that I'm just like, it's something like when they make it pretty, it's fun to have them. And I think it's kind of like, yeah, it gives comfort that this is there. Like I can, tonight I can like sleep well. I won't have to go through anxiety before sleeping and things like that. And I think like the importance of medicine is often not emphasized, in a lot of people's life, because there is a lot of shame behind medicine that is given in a lot of our society, and like, yeah, in our spaces, that like we feel ashamed to like have this medicine. But it's really important, and I think we should all advocate for safe medication as well. Yeah. And then the third object that I brought is kind of big. It's actually my prosthetic shoe. So I don't know how many of you all know, but I wear prosthetic shoes. If you like have seen my Instagram. And so this is like, yeah, my prosthetic shoe. I can show you by wearing it. Like it's, yeah, you can see my bed. Like we were all supposed to be comfortable and sit on our bed, so that's what I'm doing. But yeah, this is my prosthetic shoe that I really love. That's how I wear it. And then I've painted it. Like actually, my friend has painted this, and it's an old one, so like feminist, and like a few different, like there's fire. I really love fire. And so it's, yeah, fire. I don't know if y'all can see it because it's like coming off a little, but yeah, I've added like some glitter because I love glitter. And I've added like fur to the top to make it look nice for myself. Like I love wearing this. This is like a shoe that I have like a lot of different sparkles and things over here. And so, yeah, this is something that's like my daily object that I wear at, yeah, like whenever I go out or step out for a minute, I always wear this. So, yeah, I wanted to bring that. And yeah, I think I also brought like kind of a fourth object. I don't know if it's like it's a big object. So it's actually my bed. Like all of you can see, it's like super comfortable, and like yeah, I really love it because that's something that's like a daily object for me, like my bed. It's a big object, but it's something that like I love. The bed is like super meaningful, and I think that's something that a lot of disabled people also relate to, that they have a special relationship with their beds. So that's something that I would like to present as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I love the things that you brought, and the thing that you said about your bed. I also like remember that I purchased this chair and I got it. And one of my cousins visited my house and he was like, "Oh, that's a gaming chair. Do you play games?" And I'm like, "Oh God, I didn't even think of it." I just sat on it, found it super comfortable, and I brought it home. So yeah, I mean, there are so many things that we're using that were not meant for maybe us. Like we're not marketed for persons with disabilities, and they just work for us. So why are things not made? I mean, these are some questions that we will visit in the artworks that have been created. Just before we move on to the next segment, just wanted to know what was the original color of the shoes when you got them, and what made you want to personalize it in such creative ways?
Oh, I love that question. So before, I'll show you how it looks like, before. It's like super white and plain. Even this I've painted. This is my regular wear shoe as well. But yeah, it's like super white. Like just imagine just this part like all over. And then just like the rubber part of the shoe. But yeah, like that's something that this is my regular like at home wear. That one is like my go out, like for a step out for a minute or something like that look. But yeah, this is simple. It doesn't have the fur either. It's something that yeah, I've always used since I was like a little girl. And it's like yeah, it's super comfortable for me to move around in. And yeah, I think I don't know if you like got the shape of it, or if you like any of you have ever seen any prosthetics like that. But yeah, I probably not, because usually people haven't. But yeah, I think they're very like comfortable for me, and like I love to move around in them. Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, part of the reason why we did this exercise is to lead to this conversation about why are we doing object stories, and why objects are so important, and what are we trying to achieve through archiving these experiences, relationships with these objects, and how does that play a role in Bereft archives, which is made up of artworks that are used that are created using these objects. So should we like just have like a few like thoughts on if anyone wants to also share their thoughts in the chat box, please feel free to do so, like on what is the role of archiving and why it's necessary. So before I start sharing my screen and move to that, do you have any thoughts on why we should do this exercise, or should I just lead into the
Yeah, I think like I'll just say that that this is something that we are like like our daily objects are very important. And I feel like this artwork makes us think I feel like especially for me, like what like I can talk about what it means to me, and it's something that like really makes you really appreciate the small things that are around you in a different way, in a way to kind of be proud of them, and to be really I think about them in a way which will kind of, like bring small joys in everyone's life. So yeah, I think in that way, like I feel like we can lead to the like the introduction of the artwork that you've done, Tash, because I feel like it really speaks about these things in a different way, which makes it so beautiful, and really in ways that, like, it really kind of resonates in a personal level, and it also makes you think in a way that it helps you understand a person's life in a different way, especially disabled people's life, which is so unique and different, and not always talked about, not always shown on television and things like that. And so I think leading from that to your beautiful artwork would be really amazing, because yeah, I can't wait for people to see it. And yeah, so
Right. So I'm
yeah.
gonna share my screen before I play a video, which is a process video, one of the artworks. I just briefly introduce everyone to Bereft Archives. Bereft Archives is the title Bereft Archives came in much later. Initially, this was drafted as Bereft, which was a mixed multimedia art project. Comprising of 5 different artworks that have 5 different themes but are also interrelated. And I must make it clear that this is like everyone's experience of their queerness and their disability is very, very different. And this is just archiving of my experience, some of my experiences over here. And in order to like expand from just my experiences, Bereft Archives as a project has been reimagined as a co-creative process where more narratives and more stories and more experiences are going to be a part of this. So like I mentioned, it's autoethnographic. It's based on autoethnographic research and my lived experience. So I am somebody who has had a very complex relationship with my body, and with it came from a position of angst, pain, and a lot of like rage within me when I first conceptualized Bereft Archives, Bereft as a project. And, this idea of invisible disabilities, and they're invisible. And as much as it's important to recognize that disabilities can also be invisible in nature, I always used to feel this sort of like, urge to creatively show the visibility in some format, because because it's an invisible disability, it needn't be invisibilized even within the disability discourse. So the idea was to look at it from a very creative approach, and to bring in objects of everyday negotiations, objects that are limitations and non-limitations and extensions of my own body, like the pair of spectacles that I'm wearing is as much a part of my body as anything else is. And so is for every other disability support aid. And how does being coming to terms with your queerness interact with that, a system of oppression? There's one, and then you add another layer to it. So that's where I place myself. I like mentioned by Vani, I have physical and psychosocial disabilities both, and I identify as gender fluid. So let's get into the artworks. And before that, I'm just going to play a process video of an artwork titled Accommodating. Sometimes I feel like my clothes are wearing me and not the other way around. They're not touching me. My skin's touching my clothes, but they're not touching me back. I'm not saying they don't fit. We make some alterations and we fit very, very well together. I even get to show them off. You really can't tell what we've been through because we fit so well together. So that's just a bit about the process. I mean, of course, it took me many, many days to, one layer would dry up and then I would come back to it. And simultaneously, I was working on multiple artworks. That's just a bit into what is the idea behind this artwork titled Accommodating. And it's a dual-sided artwork. So you will find these images on bereftarchives.com, which is the online location of these archives. So I'll just quickly talk about the elements that are present in the this side. I don't want to call it back side or front side. I mean, whatever works for anyone. So I've used a maternity bra over here. And these are bra extension hooks that I use on a daily basis. These are different yarns. These are t-shirt yarns that I got from a craft store, but these are actual, pieces of fabric that I cut using scissors. I cut a tank top, and that really stretchable sort of lycra sort of material that is a very important part in my wardrobe. And on the front side is an artistic expression, the base paint of which is done using a piece of elastic, and this entire crisscross of elastic is just like a commentary on what it really means to lead a queer disabled life, and how how accommodating is part of our everyday negotiation, and it will be different for different individuals. And for me to go out and shop, first of all, going out is very inaccessible to me, but when I manage to do so, and I have to buy clothes for myself, then which filters do I, keep in mind when I'm going through, the racks and stretchable fabric and the importance of it with chronic illnesses and the weight going up and down. My experience, a long-term experience with body dysmorphia, and my issues around not being able to wear a binder while I'm going through a treatment for liver cirrhosis. So how does that play into my experience of queerness, like at what points am I not able to do things that perhaps would affirm my queer identity, but I'm not able to do those. And in the same way, I would want to perhaps go out, access queer spaces, public spaces, but again, I cannot do that. So it's not a one-way, let's call it interference, but it's like a two-way interference. So there are multiple examples of how both those identities, like each morning I have to wake up and assess within myself, which one am I living today? Or how much percentage of one am I going to live today, and how much percentage of the other am I going to live today? There's also another artwork. I'll just go to this gallery over here. There's also another artwork which is talking about waiting. I'll just quickly scroll through the images, and you can go, everyone who's here, they can go to the website and have a look at their own pace and their own time. But it's so much about what does it mean to have sick leaves, take sick leaves in a disabled person's life, and how much, I personally am dependent on my primary caregivers, who are my parents, and how I have to keep my identity hidden from them because I'm financially dependent on them. And I cannot take that risk as a queer person to, claim my identity at home. And my independence is also like very tied in with my disabled experience. So, yeah, I mean, this is also a dual-sided artwork, and what may look like somebody at rest and taking sick leaves could also look like this for so many people. And I mean, these are pieces from my planner, and sometimes I put things in my planner, but they are never materialized. So, I mean, but I still end up doing that because I mean, this ableist framework of planning your days and going forward with what are you doing this Friday? Hey, what are you doing for weekend? I don't know the answers to these questions also sometimes. So yeah, I mean, this is one of the artworks here. And we're going to look into, I think, under observation as well. And then Shivangi, you can ask me any questions. And the rest of the artworks, or we can have a look at Cocoon. And the rest of the artworks are for everyone who's here to go explore themselves. The link is, it's an easy to navigate website. So I'm gonna play Cocoon, the process video.
If it's come down to me, it really has come down to me. I don't see how anyone else can help my cause.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. I think I love the music in that, and it has so much like joy in it in like so many ways. And at the same time, it starts with such a beautiful note of, like the daily objects, like for example, the pills that I have, like I can just imagine making this myself at the same time. Like it just takes me on a journey, and want me to also do art in a way that gives me joy for my daily objects. So that's something that I really love and resonate in this piece. And like I think some of the things that I also felt was that there are, like, it also reminded me of things that I also use in my daily life, for example, the accommodating video that you showed. In that, I was thinking of, like, labels that are there in, like clothes, like t-shirts and shirts and all, which like can be super uncomfortable, like for my skin, like a lot of times, because my skin it can become very sensitive. And like that's also usually like a part of in different kinds of disabilities, like a lot of neurodivergence is like that, where you get annoyed by little things like labels, and like them being itchy on your back, like literally itchy and also metaphorically itchy. I guess labels are a lot of times itchy in like the theoretical format as well for me. And so those are things that I really kind of think about, you mentioned about stretchable fabrics, and things like fabrics is something that, like, the I don't know which word that you used, but yeah, for me, like the cotton fabric is a very um, amazing like feeling. And I think those are things that like are part of my regular life. And I think it makes me feel comfortable. So really, like, that's like the very core of your art, I felt, which is so beautiful, and like helps me understand in myself and appreciate myself in a different way. And I hope that it does that for like others also in some way, like the colors, or like the paints that you've used, and like the way that you have presented them. It's such a beautiful thing that I want to be there. I want to like experience it, like really touch it if I can, and really understand it in a different way, in a physical space. And I feel and it also, because it's so regular in my life, that it makes me want to do an art piece myself, like in such a like in a way that like would express my life as well. And I think that's something that's very important in your website as well, where it goes and says let's co-create. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things about it. Like archiving has meant so many things to me in a way that it's like archiving history, like disabled history, queer history, in a way which is personal to us in our homes and things like that, especially since the pandemic. But that our rooms have become such a important part of our life, that like the things that are there in the room makes me think of art in a different way. Yeah, I think that's something like super like beautiful. And yeah, that's just something that I wanted to share as well. And I also see someone has shared on chat, like, I just want to share that Nidhi has shared, I just want to share that I have an object which has become an extension of my body in the COVID era. That is my Bluetooth earplugs. With so much shifted to online, this has become absolute essential. So much so that I think it has slightly affected my hearing by now, but I'm never without my earphones hanging on my neck. Oh wow, like I love that. I think yeah, earphones are a very significant part of my life as well. Like I prefer like headphones at this point, because I know that like I can relate to what you said about your ears like being affected a little bit. Like I think that's happening to me as well. So I feel like that's an important part of my daily life as well. And I think that's something that I don't know, given a lot of access in a different way, which is, comfortable, and it has, brought beauty in some ways, like, what you have done with your objects, daily objects, just creating like a beautiful art piece out of it, which you just want to be in the presence of, is like a beautiful thing. Yeah, like that's something that I really wanted to add. Yeah.
All right, I'll just wrap up this and then join you in this conversation. So yeah, I mean, bereftarchives.com and the artworks page over here. The other two artworks that we haven't opened, I'll just, yeah, so this artwork is titled Under Observation, and this one's called Capacitated, which is again a bunch of different objects put together that make me feel capacitated. So could be different objects for different persons. The idea is to imagine a world where, this is how the world is, like through, if these objects can do it for me, that was a sentiment, then there is so much that we as a community can do for persons who cannot access spaces or so I mean, again, like I'm saying, I made a lot of things from a point of from a place of rage and a lot of pain. So that is also visible, while cocoon is actually a very like warm part of my experience. The other pieces are also, equally important, the negative emotions I encounter and everything. Just before I close my screen, this is a page called Let's Co-Create, where we'd love to hear feedback from people who are in this session today and others who are going to watch this later. Any suggestions or ideas to co-create these archives or pictures of these objects that, like Nidhi mentioned, their wireless headphones, any of these pictures, just to populate our archives and to move to phase 2 of this project, which is to have more participants, more artists, or however you identify. You identify yourself as an artist or no, it doesn't matter. Just adding to this archive and tagging us on the Instagram handle at bereft.archives, or using this box over here on the website. And yeah, so that's about it for the online archive.
Shall we open it up for Q&A?
Yeah, we could.
Let me jump in as well now, as part of the Q&A Janta. Thank you very much, actually, to both of you. I think the conversation is really just opening a bunch of things that I think is very rare for us to do. And, in terms of being able to look at objects that we have complex relationships with, as I said in the opening. And Tash, a lot of this is also learning from you, just learning to be aware. I think one is often knows stuff, but one is not aware of stuff. I think there's that distinction. And I think your project really brings that. But as an artist, I have a question to you. That how do you convert to an abstract form or to an object of such beauty complex emotions, like rage, like negativity, there's something that you've been able to do, which is, look, we had seen your art that you had been creating during the COVID time and your abstract art, and we saw what you wanted to do. Okay. But still, when we saw it come together, there was this absolute sense of, and it remains, I have to say, this absolute sense of awe. But I think I'd like you to talk about a little, if you're comfortable doing that, well, how does one deal with the emotional content of what we do? And we all deal with this, whether it's in a conversation, whether it's in the complexity of a relationship with people you're dependent on, whether it's in an art form you work in, whether it's in a workplace you work in, there's lots of things. But I think that in a project that you're doing solo, because nothing would have stopped you from making a really angry piece, or for instance, each one having very different emotional quotients. So would you be comfortable talking a little about it? Or how did you sift yourself? How much of it is conscious, not conscious?
So I have always been interested in object histories, and it started my interest in object stories and object histories and intellectual histories of non-intellectuals. Just started when I was studying my master's, and one of my design professors, they asked us to think of an object and trace its history and the future of it. Like imagine the future of it 200 years back and 200 years forward. And I chose a very, like, in their words, a rather inconspicuous object, which is a suitcase. So everyone was like, what are you going to do with the suitcase? And I said, I don't know. I mean, it's just something that I use. At the time when I was doing that assignment, I was just focused on, the technical aspect of it, like where has the suitcase come from and where has it reached today with wheels and, everything, right? But while doing it, there are so many social, aspects to it that I touched upon, on migration, on tourism, on who's using the suitcase, so gender, and which part of the country is the suitcase which part of the world is the suitcase being used in. So that really interested me. That assignment really interested me, and I got to know so much through, just looking at an object and tracing its history based on just Google search.
I've often thought about it when you arrive at a railway station and you think of how many coolies have been put out of work because of just the wheels on the suitcase,
Yeah.
Yeah, I also wanted to just add also from my end that, like, one of the artwork that really emotionally, like, really like reached me in a different level, like, was observation. I think, like, we didn't really see it, like the page. Maybe that's something that people can do on their own, like just see the page observation, and it has these x-rays and it has these really amazing sounds that you hear in hospitals, which are a frequent visit for a lot of people with disabilities. And I think it's like got a different meaning in a different way, like the MRIs, I guess, that are there, which are so beautiful. And I think they really, feel like a different, like, in the way that it is an artwork, it feels so unique. Like, I think we were for me, it was something that was very impressive to have that as something, to look at, and in a different art form way, like really bringing joy to that thing in a different way. And so that's something that I really resonated with. Yeah.
So there are two parts to that artwork itself. So when you mentioned joy, I remember the other one, which is an extra piece. So I decided to do this from a place of pain, because I was made to access healthcare during COVID, and it was very, very difficult for me to be able to go to the hospital so many times, and the pandemic played such a huge role in also, like, how dysphoric I felt when they put me in those ropes and, just made me sign those forms every time for a COVID test. And I had to, not out myself in a way that it can harm me, and all the things that went ahead in my head. So I made that from a sense of pain. But while doing that, when that night when I was, putting the resin to cure, the tray is made of resin, I was putting it to cure. I got this, like, again, this, this sort of idea that I'm just going to cut the strips apart. And because there's such, the idea of lack of agency in the doctor's clinic, and how we have to run from one specialist to the other. And with chronic illnesses, you have to keep doing this. And most of my doctors are cishet males. And I mean, how difficult it can get. So I just took the brain, MRI strips and the back and the uterus, and I stitched them together. So that brought me a lot of joy that, that's what I envisioned, that someday some doctor somewhere could look at me as a whole and not look at my body in parts and parts of their specialization. So that's the joyful part of it. And the painful one is the one which is put inside glass domes. So yeah, I mean, thank you for bringing that up, because I totally forgot about that extra piece.
Yeah, I think that's such a beautiful part of it as well. So, yeah, thanks, Tash, also for this beautiful artwork and like creating this archive, I think, which will really help a lot of people with disabilities and I think like queer people and like different, like communities that are there that we exist in, and archive those experiences, because archiving is such an important aspect of these experiences, that they mean something which is very different. And I love that it's a website and that people can submit things, and I can't wait to submit like some of the things that I find from my daily objects in a way that like brings me joy. I think the way that it probably brought you joy as well. Yeah.
I also think that there is something currently in the social media space, which is about looking perfect, coming across as perfect, as being very, very able-bodied, very, very perfect. Actually, in a very complex way, it's about everything, right? And there's a lot. That whole space is populated with this deification of beauty, if I can put it in a certain kind of way, and a certain kind of beauty, right? So I feel that in that context, it becomes even more challenging and even richer then to be archiving something that is marginal, that is reclaiming and claiming ideas of wholeness in the middle of non-wholeness, right? Or of queerness and placing it at the center and not saying that this is a margin. So I feel that creating archives that actually do that, or encouraging the creation of archives that actually do that, have a very deep political purpose. And especially when you're doing it through social media and the online space, where there is such a lot of focus on who's looking hot and who's looking cool in a kind of unidimensional way, right? You can see that in the comments as they keep rolling. And in general, I feel the idea of archiving from the margins is very important. And so I feel that in both ways, that what you're creating, and we, really have to think about how do we reach this out to more people to become part of the project. I think in that sense, you put it well, Tash, when you said this is the second part of the project. One needs to think now, how does one actually open that space to people for them to discover it and then feel comfortable enough to now then participate in it. I think that's something that needs to be something we think of.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And Shivangi, to your desire to see these works in a physical space, we are hoping that in the next few months, if we're lucky, we might be able to. We're working towards it. Let's see. I think I told you all before that nothing is pakka yet. But if we manage to, because really, although we've also only seen these works online because of the times we live in, but so we're also waiting to see them, jisko Hindi mein kehte hain prakat roop se, and where you have this sense of really confronting them, of walking around a piece that is multi-sided, that is multidimensional in many ways. So while Tash has done an amazing job of actually documenting it for us, including the process, which is very amazing. I mean, to make a piece and to document it and to do it on your own, you're a rock star, Tash. But still, there is a desire to see it in a physical way, to walk around it, to sort of feast one's eyes on the contrast between something and the other, of to see the piece of rage as in conjunction with or in contrast to the piece of joy, So those counterpolations that you actually have made in your work, we are all yet to experience it. Yeah. So that is something we look forward to Oh yeah, there are generally gushy things coming in the chat room. One says one does not always associate illness, immobility, and associated challenges with beauty. But these artworks are truly beautiful in addition to being deeply moving for what they convey. Thank you for making us part of your journey. So much of what you and you show through Bereft is relatable. More strength to you. So are there any questions or comments or anything from friends who are in chat? Would you like to be activated for voice? We can do that too. You just have to put up your hand and we will we'll activate the question. I mean, the voice, so that you can at least be heard. I mean, if you're comfortable doing that. Otherwise, Tash is on Insta, both as Tashverse as well as Bereft Archives. So you can always catch them there. I think all the links have been shared today in the chat room.
Yeah, thank you, folks. I hope it was a good experience for everyone, and can't wait to interact with this art in a different way, and also by bringing my own object, like maybe submitting it in a way that like looks nice to me. I think that's something that I look forward to, and like let's hope to just keep seeing it like grow. Yeah, I think growing is something which is very beautiful, especially for an archive like this, which is so beautiful. So yeah.
Tash, any closing comments you'd like to make?
I'm just really glad that Reframe facilitated this project for me. And to answer the question that you asked before, I was coming from a space of feeling a lack of, home and the sense of homelessness when I had applied for this project. The whole experience was that my body is my home and it's often at war with itself. So,
right.
And just so glad that almost more than a year, I guess, of having conceptualized this and to see it and to share it with everyone, it just feels really, really good. And at different stages, I felt different levels of joy of completing it, and at times not completing it also, and then feeling like, okay, this is it, step back from it. So that guidance was very important, and thank you for this opportunity. And I really hope that Bereft Archives is ongoing and it does not stop here. Yeah,
as I said, no, we've been really, really proud to be associated with you and your work. It's not just your work, not just the outcome, but also in terms of engaging with you. I think it has it's been an amazing experience, and even when you would write and say, look, I'm not up to it, and that's and because we are all driven by this agenda, deadline kind of thing, and in person also some of us are like that, and then you constantly whipping yourself about it, so makes you sort of stop and sort of say, okay, let me take a rain check, not just for Tash but also for ourselves. It's okay if it comes a little later. And honestly, and then realizing that the world had not changed enough for us to go physical, because when we first started the project, there was an assumption that by the time you finish it, at least the world will be completely open, right? But then you also took the project to a place where you wanted it to be more participatory. So I think in those ways, so there are really two parts of this project. One is its online life, where it will hopefully open conversations, and that's something we should talk about in terms of any help we can offer in terms of just figuring out how to do some of that, right? And the other thing is, and just in that spirit, this conversation will be available online in the next few days, because we'll just put it together, and so that people can also get a sense of what it is, because it's always lovely to hear an artist talk about their work, and sort of just dismantle it enough for it to start revealing itself to you. And I think you did that really, really beautifully today. And also hopefully we will still have a physical showing, which also we will talk about. And hopefully we will have many more people with us, and that this conversation will remain ongoing. I mean, that is, I think, the really crucial part. So kudos to all that you've done and to the doors you've opened for, I think, not just for yourself, it's one thing to say, I recognize my privilege and I'm putting this out. Another thing to actively say, I am opening a door, saying, there is a space, now you come and speak. I think there are two parts of what you've done, and that's particularly, I think, empowering, encouraging, open-ended. And Shivangi, thanks so much could not have thought of a better person to have this conversation with Tash. And I think your candidness also just opens this whole thing up. It's in the same spirit of what Tash is trying to do. And I think by example, you yourself in your work, you make a lot of these linkages from the margins. And I think that to bring that to this work is really deepening it, and and enriching it and holding it with more meaning and more beauty. And I think that for that we can't be grateful enough.
Thank you so much
both.
for that. Yeah.
And thank you, friends, for joining us. And hopefully you will lead some others to, sorry, to the YouTube link. We will put it out on Insta very soon. And but more importantly, to the Bereft archives, both as a website and as an Insta handle, because they are closely related. Okay.
All right.
Thank you all. Sorry, Tash. Were you going to say something, Tash?
I was just going to say thank you so much. And yeah.
Thank you to both of you, and big virtual hugs, and hopefully meet you all soon and see the work together soon.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye. Bye. Good night.
Bye, Shivangi.
Bye.
Bye, Tash. Bye, Shivangi.
Bye, Tash.